Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayashu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So I'll do a sharp summary of what we have completed till now, which we discussed in detail yesterday, about this whole knowledge which is bringing us nearer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it all started with the introduction, wherein we thought about our defects, why we need the Vedas, how Vedas are important, and we have understood how if you have to understand Krishna, then Vedas is the only mechanism, because for Krishna is the ultimate objective for Vedas. Then we saw the invocation Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnata Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. How Supreme Personality of Godhead is complete absolute truth. How material world is complete. How human form offers complete facility. How sense gratification is illusory completeness. And how devotional service is the real completeness. Then we moved to the first shloka. Ishavasamidam sarvam yat kinchita jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magrida kasya svidadanam. So we understood the glory of Vedic knowledge, how Lord is proprietor of everything, how there is quota in nature, how there is quota in human possession of earth, how there is quota in human diet, and how we have to live with the Isha Vasya. Asurya nama te loka andhena tamashravatah tamste pratyabhigachanti ye kecha atma hano janaha. So here he understood how karma bandhana is the actual cause of the death. How human life offers liberation through akarma. How Vedas lead to akarma. How we have to begin by bringing Krishna into all our activities, because without Krishna, everything is in vain. And so we have to convert all kinds of altruisms to karma yoga. Kurvan eva hi karmani jiji vishesha shatam samah evam tvai nanyathe to asti na karma lipyate nare. So who is a demon? Who is a soul killer? How we have to liberate the soul and not kill it. How if you don't use this human life form now, then we have to live worse than the animals in this life and go to hell in next. How failure, even in our efforts to liberate the soul, will give us good results. And so we have to make all the possible mechanisms to ensure that we are trying to liberate the soul. Anejat ekam manasah Jyavi iona enad adeva apnuvat purvamarshata tadadhavato anyatanneti tishtat tasmina pomatrishva dadhati. How absolute truth cannot be understood by speculation. Only revelation helps understand God and his energies. Energies are not different, yet different. Because we are limited, we cannot understand unlimited. And so we need his revelation. And so what we have to do is play our part and wait for being given the understanding by which we'll understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tad ejati tat na ejati tad dure tad avantike tad antarasya sarvasya tad u sarvasya asya bahya. He is inconceivable. He is near yet far. How Archa Vigraha is actual Lord, and how we have to scientifically worship Archas. How Krishna is Nirguna yet Saguna, and how he pervades everything, yet is separate from everything. Yatu sarvani bhutani atmani eva anupashyati sarva bhuteshu atmanam jatatah na vijugupsate. So he who systematically sees everything in relation to Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. And that is the level which we have to reach. So we have started as Kanishta Adhikaris, we have to move to Madhyama Adhikari and then to the Attama Adhikari stage. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atma eva bhuta vijanatah tatra kaha moha shoka ekatvam anupashyatah. So there is oneness between energy and energetic. Example, fire. There is oneness in quality, but not in quantity. So drop of water and ocean. Oneness in interest brings enjoyment. Separate interests cause shoka and moha. And so we have to become one in interest with God. And how is it that possible? But doing what Krishna has instructed us to do. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vrajaha. Second instruction, man manabhav mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskar. Nothing else. Only these instructions have been given. Dhaparyagata shukram akayam avranam ashnaviram shuddham apapavidham kavihi manisi paribhuhu swayambhuhu yatha tatyataha arthan vedadata shashvatibhyah sambhayaha. So Krishna is akayam, unembodied. He is ashnaviram, without wings. He is shukram, omnipotent. He is fulfiller of desires. He is supreme, self-sufficient, antiseptic, as well as prophylactic. Andatama pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tatah bhuya ivate u vidyayam ratah. So even vidya, just like avidya, it's not giving us the ultimate knowledge. So avidya upasate definitely go into the darkest regions. Even vidyayam ratah, they are not having good results. As we can see, the modern education, which has become godless. So what we are looking at is neither Veda Rataha, neither Maya Aparhita Jnanaha, because that is something which is going to keep us bound and not allow us to be liberated. Anyad Deva Ahu Vidya Aya Anyad Ahu Vidyaya Iti Shushrumadhiranam Yanah Tad Avacha Achaksharaha Vichachakshire. So Vidya leads to desirable qualities, while avidya leads to undesirable qualities. And it's only a dhiraha who can teach us about vidya. Then we have seen the 18 items to culture knowledge, which we can definitely go through the notes anytime, which you already have. Then we move to the shloka number 11. Vidyacha avidyacha yahtav avidyo abhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirthva vidyaya amratam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of niscience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of it. So we try to become immortal, but then amrutam ashnute. Materially, it is impossible. So we saw the example of Hiranyakashipu for that. But immortality is possible when we get Krishna's teachings followed completely. Because Krishna is finally coming us to make us immortal, while sense gratification is binding us to mortality. So we have to restrict it. Vidyayamcha, vidyayamcha. So harmonize the material needs with spiritual advancements through aparadharma and then attain immortality through paradharma. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanitamscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are now coming to the second last section of Sri Ishopanishad. So in this particular section, we have got these three mantras: mantra 12, mantra 13, and mantra 14. So we are going to be covering the 12th mantra today, and next week we'll complete the next two mantras. So what it makes us understand is that it's the Asambhuti, which takes us to darkness, and Sambhuti to actually greater darkness. Next shloka we'll understand Asambhuti gives one result, while Sambhuti another result. And then we understand that together they can grant immorality. That's dangerous. So let us see how it happens. Andatamaha pravishanti ye asambhutim upasate tata bhuya ivate tamo yu sambhutyamrataha. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so to the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. Andhatamaha pravishanti. So, andha means ignorance basically, and tama is darkness. So, these people pravishanti enter into the darkness of ignorance. Who? Asambhutim. So, Asambhutim here refers to the demigods. So, upasate Asambhutim, worshipping the demigods, but even tattah, than that, still more bhuyaha, are who? Those who are sambhutyam ratah, engaged in the absolute truth. So if you are engaged in the worship of demigods, then we'll enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so to the worshippers of the impersonal absolute truth. And that is where the whole discussion of this shloka number 12 has been by Prabhupada. Because even the demigods and the rishis, they misunderstand the absolute truth to be impersonal. And that is why the demigod worshippers stay in the dark material world, and impersonalists who mislead people go to the darkest regions of the hell. So this is all covered very nicely in the purport, which I have already shared in the Google Drive. But let us understand about Krishna and the prodigal son. So we all know this story, how the son somehow he has left the home and he does not know who his parents are, how he is a child of a very rich person, how today he is begging, he is making efforts, but if he is united with his father, then he will not have to work hard, he will not have to beg. And his father also is very, very pitiable situation. He's striving hard to find his son. Oh my son, where are you? He's giving advertisements that whosoever finds my son, I will reward him. And the day the son and the father meet, the problems for both of them get resolved. And that is exactly what is our story as well. Yes, because Krishna is a God who does not just welcome us back, but is also striving multifariously to get us back. And one such extraordinary effort of his is the system of demigod worship. So, this whole knowledge is available everywhere. But the question still comes, oh, Prabhuji, why is it difficult to understand the Upanishads? What is Sambhuti? What is Asambhuti? Now, Asambhuti refers to those who have no independent existence. Like we don't have independent existence. And Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead, who is absolutely independent of anything. And that is where the whole discussion is revolving. And somehow, because this Sambhuti, Asambhuti as a concept keeps coming, keeps going at multiple levels, to understand the Upanishads and this knowledge becomes little difficult. But that is not so if we see the Ishopanishad. Because in 12th verse, we are starting with basics. So Asambhuti is demigods, and Sambhuti is the impersonal absolute truth. Then we progress further. So Asambhuti is anything other than demigod, the supreme personality of Godhead. While Sambhuti is supreme personality of Godhead. And once we have reached that level, then the next level comes out. That Asambhuti is knowledge of material world, and Sambhuti is knowledge of supreme personality of Godhead. So that is where the whole transitional information is flowing. I cannot write an essay on my ambition in life when I don't know what is ABCD as a child of say 3 or 4 years old. When can I write the essay? When I have understood what is ABCD. Then I need to understand what is sentence. Then I need to understand what is grammar. And then I can become good enough to write something. Similarly, this knowledge has come out layer by layer by layer. So Sambhuti and Asambhuti, we cannot be talking about when it says Sambhuti or Sambhuti. Oh, how is it that the impersonal truth is Sambhuti? No, it's only God, Krishna, or the knowledge of Krishna which can be Sambhuti. Yes, that is PhD. But we are beginners. And that is why 12th Shloka is having this distinction. Once we understand it and we move to the next Shloka, then one layer comes. And so understanding Upanishads is not at all difficult. See, even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said this. In the 10th chapter, Krishna states that only unintelligent, bewildered persons driven by strong desire for self-gratification worship the demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. See, it's temporary relief and temporary problems that Krishna is talking about. Na me vidhu surganaha prabhavam na maharshaya ahmadihi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasa. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages, is what Krishna has said. So we have to understand right from Krishna who Krishna is. But because we are materially entangled, first we have to be relieved from material bondage entirely. Then only we can get the permanent relief from spiritual plane, where it is Satchidanand, bliss, life, and so Ishopanishad is instructing us not to seek temporary relief of our difficulties by worshipping dependent demigods who can give only temporary benefit. Rather, we must worship Krishna. Sarvaha akarshayati iti Krishna. He is all attractive. And he is Paribhu, supreme. And he is a fulfiller of all desires, as we saw in the previous Shloka. So he can bestow us complete freedom by taking us back home, back to Godhead. And that has to be our target. And this is what exactly this is saying. Na me viduh surganaha prabhavam na maharshayah ahmadihi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasah. This comes in 7.20 as well. So this is where the whole discussion lies. Or if you see the 7th chapter, there it talks about the material desires as well. Kamahi tehi vruddha jnanah prapadante anya devataha tam niyamam asthaya prakritya niyatah svayaha. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. While what is required is we should surrender to Vasudeva and worship him. That is what is stated in Bhagavatam also, 2.3.10. Akamah sarva kamova moksha kama udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. And even in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabhavratya. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is master, and all others are servants. So pure devotee never goes to demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord. And a pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. And even if he approaches the demigods, he approaches them, oh, please help me in my devotional service. Please, 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 please. Please somehow pass my recommendation to Krishna. So he passes me in the final exam. It's like in material world, we hear of some stories wherein some recommendations are given for admissions or something like that. So here also we are requesting demigods, please let us get admission into Krishna Lok. That is what demigods are doing. Because somehow he's so mystic, so different, that everyone gets confused. And we don't understand what to do when. Antavantu phalam tesham antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavati alpamedhasam devam deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Krishna says here clearly, men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. But somehow, in this material world, Maya is so powerful. We get confused, we get caught. So, Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to the demigods, the sages, the mystics. And though they have these powers, they are limited. So even for them, it is difficult to know Krishna, because he finally appears by his own internal potency. Now, modern scientists, you see, we are trying to go to Mars. When Prabhupada ji was talking about this topic, we had just landed in Apollo. And today we are trying to go to Mars. Tomorrow we'll try to go to Pluto, then some other planetary systems. But this is not a new attempt. Actually, human beings are naturally inclined to travel in outer space and reach other planets by spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. So there are three ways which are mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. But the best and the most common is by worshipping the demigod presiding over a particular planet. So we can reach the moon planet, the sun planet, even Brahma Lok, which is the topmost planet of universe. However, all these are temporary residences because the permanent planets are Vaikuntha Lokas, which are in the spiritual sky, where Krishna himself comes. Abrahma bhuvan aloka punar avartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punar janmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So wherever we try to go, we'll have to come. So why should we at all be doing these efforts? And in fact, considering that there are so many questions, how many demigods are there? Some answer 33 crores. And it's the fact. Like even in Brihadaranya Upanishad, Yajnavalkya was asked this, Muni Yajnavalkya was asked this critical question, Kati Devaha. That means, how many Devas are there? And his answers are very, very wonderful. If you are able to somehow go through them practically, because his answer progresses from 3003, then 303, then 33, then 6, then 3, then 2, and then finally 1. The best part is, there is no contradiction in the various answers which he is giving. Because finally everything is coming from that one Ekat. That is what we also have to be striving to understand. And that's not difficult. See, it's Bhautikta, Karma Kanda, Sakam Bhakti, and Shuddha Bhakti. So if you are doing Shuddha Bhakti, you will understand immediately. If you are into Bhautikta, you may find it difficult. So if you are trying to have some other landlord as the object, and actually internally you want to say demigod with the motive of wealth, then it is Bhautikta, materialism. If the object is minister of a king, then it is like demigod. So here also the motive may be wealth, and it comes under karma kanda. But when the object of service is the king, like here Krishna, so even if you're talking about wealth as a motive, then it is Sakam Bhakti. But when we are having motive of prem, then it is Shuddha Bhakti. So that is what we have to understand, how the object differs. So then the question comes, why is it that demigod worship has been recommended? The answer is, the service is for materially minded devotees. It's multi-level options for spiritual advancement, according to whatever mode we may be in, with the expression of Krishna's ultimate non-enviousness and compassion. Like we want to go to the 13th floor. There can be a lift which can take us there, or there will be a staircase. So wherein we go one step at a time and then finally reach the ultimate floor. That is exactly what the karma kanda is. So we have got material desires, we are having some material attachments, and that is where we start doing this demigod worship. And they have got so many options. You want this, you worship them. You want this, you worship her or him. And then ultimately, we reach Krishna. And the best part is, Krishna is so non-envious. And he is having so much of compassion. He is not getting disturbed even if you worship someone else. Oh, you want to worship him? Go, worship. Compare it to the material world. If so there's a prime minister And some other minister starts getting credit, his name starts coming up. He feels so envious that he'll ensure that he's cutting him to proper size so that his importance remains as it is. Krishna is not that. Krishna is completely non-envious and full of compassion. So this system of multi-level worship is a testimony for a unique concern for the individuality of the worshipper and an unparalleled flexibility of the worshipable in making himself accessible. A very profound statement. So here the individuality of us is maintained, and we understand how Krishna is flexible, unparalleled flexibility, and how he makes himself accessible to different modes and mechanisms. That again proves how great Krishna is. So, what is the logic? So, when we want to understand the logic for demigod worship, we can understand it very simple. So, is 60% a good or a bad score? For someone who is not good in studies, who has been scoring 40%, if he gets 60%, it's excellent. But if someone is capable of getting 80% and still he gets 60%, then it is not desired. So similarly, for atheists and materialists, demigod worship is recommended. But for those who are seriously on the path of spiritualism, it is not recommended. And even if we do it, it has to be to get the mercy of them to get our benefits. And we have many examples how this happens, like Vallabhacharya. He was an ardent devotee of Lord Shiva. But then, through him, he progressed to Dwarikadish. Or even if you go to the story of Keshav Kashmiri, he was a full Mayavadi. But then he surrendered and he understood. See, Mayavad has a lot of dangers, and we have to be very, very careful about Mayavad. It's a khichdi made with the grains of impersonalism from Upanishads, sugar of social service from Christianity, spice of nationalism from the independence movement, and the envy for Krishna, which is there. And that is how the Mayavad reflects today. Practically, Upanishads is a stepping stone in the Vedic master plan. But the impersonalists, they make mistakes. The material forms and varieties that we see are for the material desires to be fulfilled. But then they again give rise to the material miseries. So in the purport, Prabhupada ji is talking about Vyavharika, anything that talks about form and variety. And Paramarthika, anything that talks about formlessness. So Mayavad had a lot of spread. Shankaracharya ji came. And the modern world, it has given it a completely different twist. And that is why we are finding so many disasters in philosophy. Because it is depriving us of our natural taste of bhakti and making the material life feel to be more attractive than spiritual life. See, impersonalism that we see is not the ultimate. It's a transitory process. So Vedas, they talk of karma kanda, so religious materialism. Upanishads, they're talking about jnana kanda, impersonalism, while going from material to spiritual world. But the ultimate is Bhagavatam, where we are talking about the bhakti or the spiritual form. And that is what is more important. So either all form and variety, Vyavharika or Paramarthika, as we saw earlier, formlessness, both are Mayavad And they have got scriptural contradictions. Like Jiva and Jagat or Jagdish relationship, they're not able to classify him. They're not able to understand whether the Jiva and Brahman relationship is same or different. With Mayavad, we cannot answer these things. Because the facts are, if you worship the demigods, you'll attain their material planets and remain in the darkest region of the universe. Now, why is it Andhatama? Now, the reason why it was mentioned Andhatama is because this whole universe is basically like a coconut shell. So, it is covered by the gigantic material element. And it is half filled with water. And because the covering is airtight, there is darkness. It is death. And so we need the sun and the moon for illumination. But outside this vast, unlimited Brahma Jyoti expansion. And in that Brahma Jyoti expansion, there are so many Vaikuntha Lokas. And the biggest and the highest planet there in the spiritual realm is Krishna Lok, Golok Vrindavan. Wherever Krishna himself resides. He never leaves Krishna Lok. And although he dwells there with his eternal associates, he is omnipresent throughout the complete material and spiritual cosmic manifestations. This we already saw in the 4th verse. So Lord is present everywhere, just like the sun. Yet he is situated in one place, just as the sun is situated in its own undeviating orbit. So, antavattu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpam edhasam devat devayajo yanti mad bhakta yanti mamut. The results derived from worshipping the demigods are not permanent because the overall material universe is impermanent. So whatever is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also temporary. So the question that remains is how to obtain real and permanent life. And that is what gets answered by Krishna here. So Krishna's statement in Bhagavad Gita, Evam Parampara Praptam. The supreme science of God is received through the disciplic succession is most important. While the Mayavads, the rogues, they are dangerous elements in society. And because there is no religious government, they escape punishment by law of state. However, they cannot escape the law of supreme. Because it is clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that envious demons in the garb of religious propagandists shall be thrown in the darkest regions of hell. That is their actual final position. And so we have to be careful about what we hear, from whom we hear. Tanaham dvishataha kruran sansareshu naradama kshipabmi ajastra shubhamana sureshveva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, or the lowest among men, are perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Asurim yoginam manna mudha janmani janmani mam prapeva kaunteya tatha yanti adhamam gati. Attaining repeated birth among species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. This is what is clearly mentioned by Krishna. And same thing is repeated in this particular shloka. Andatamaha pravishanti ye sambhutam upasate tata bhuya ivate tamaha ya u sambhutyam rataha. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much.